Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 19 of our 21 days bootcamp. And for today, we'll take a look or we'll introduce ourselves to what we call graphical user interfaces. And we'll do that with a package called tkinter. People say kinter, whatever, but however you pronounce it, that is the name over there. So, what are graphical user interfaces? Up until now, what we have been doing is taking inputs from the command or from the command line or the terminal. So in that aspect of interacting with the computer, command line interface, popularly called CLI. So you hear people say CLI. But what we are about to do today will introduce us to a more graphical form of interacting with the computer, which we are very all used to. So like you see buttons, entries, things that you can easily interact with without you, the user, having to open any form of prompt like the command prompt or any form of terminal to interface with the application. So that is what we call the I think I should use a different color for this one. We call those ones the graphical user interface. So they are both interfaces we use to interact with the computer. One is the command line like we have been doing. So and use say inputs. So what the input will allow us to do is that it will allow us to type in something at our terminal, at our run console. So that is the command line interface. But the graphical user interface, maybe we have to type sometimes, but it will not be like typing into a terminal, but maybe typing into a text box like you do when you are logging into a website. You type your username and your password, you are typing, but you're not typing in a terminal or a console, anything like that, but you are typing into what we may call a widget more generally. And then the widget or the interface, which is now clickable and more familiar and user friendly, will take your inputs and everything and pass it to some code or logic at the back end, so to speak. That is how we call it. So what the user sees, that is the buttons, the entries, maybe the slider, anything that you interact with your mouse or keyboard, we call it widgets. So they will take the inputs and then pass it to a back end logic, which is the place or the part where the end user, the ordinary user does not see, but you, the developer, have written code to take those inputs from the user and send it to the code or the logic at the back, and then that logic will know what to do with that code. So for in the case of authentication, it will be able to log the user in or tell the user that there was an error. Okay, so that is it. So today's session probably promises to be exciting more than the ones that has gone before, maybe for some of us. And because we'll be seeing things like clickables and all those things onto our screen. We'll be building at least two very tiny, should we say, software or applications so that you get used to that. But the tkinter library comes with Python by default. You don't have to install it. There are other libraries that we use for graphical user interfaces, which are, should I say, more powerful than tkinter itself. I don't normally or usually use the TK. There's one called PyQt. That is what I use. There is also there are other so many of them, but my favorite is the PyQt. But at least for the introduction's sake, this will do because it should be easier for us to follow. Okay, so as usual, as always, if you want to use any library in Python, you know that you have to import it. So here we can say, let me change our banner here first. Okay. Here we have to say import tkinter and then there are two most important things when you are creating tkinter applications. The first one is to maybe say create an instance of the main application window. And then the second most important thing is to do what we call start the event loop. Okay. Usually, I will use something else to explain this one for you. Okay, so let's see how that one goes. So the instance of the main application, remember from yesterday that classes, and so this is an instance of the tkinter class if you want to think of it that way. So I can say app equal to tkinter dot tk, not tcl, tk, but please check the casing is very, very important. Okay, so now if I run my app, all things being equal, I should see some changes, but nothing did happen. And that is great. You may think nothing happened, but actually something happened. You should have seen a window pop up like graphical user interface, just like PyCharm's interface, where I can click on a button or something like that. But it turns out to be that the computer has something, the screen has something called a refresh rate. The refresh rate. So refresh rate, not refresh rate. So depending on how fast or how quickly it updates itself every second. This is how it works. Think of it like it updates itself every second to match up with whatever the current state of the components or the processes that are running in the memory is. So whatever we see here happens, like for instance, if I type RATE, I'm able to see it because let's just assume that is not how it is done technically, but if I should give a very non-technical explanation, that's what I would say. When I type R and the computer does not update its screen and I type A, I will not see the A. I'll still see the old state of R. So that is what the computer screen tries to do, is that it tries to update itself frequently and then many times a second so that we can see the changes that have occurred in memory or from the processes that are running. So that is how come we are able to see things like videos or even the mouse movement or anything like that. They are all made possible by the refresh rate. So, okay, it's not only the refresh rate or the monitor or the screen updating itself, but that is also part of the process. What is happening here with the main loop is that unless we tell the app to maybe, should I say, sync or update itself with the computer every time so that it stays awake, it will only run once and we will not see it. And depending on how fast our computer updates itself or the screen, we will not even see any indication at the task bar at all. So what usually happens, we say app.main loop. And then what this one will ensure is that it will keep the app in a continuous loop so that it doesn't vanish. We will not need this place a lot. So now you see that there is another icon at my taskbar. If I zoom in, that has the Python logo. Okay, so that's our application, but mine open in the second window, so I'll bring it in. And then now you see here that we have an application window here with our icon at the top left with our default app buttons at this place, the minimize, close, and then maximize, and a very blank space because we have not actually done anything here. So all of these things work. We can maximize, minimize, bring it back, and actually even also close it. So that is the job of the main loop. That is the job of the main loop. I'm sorry how those explanations didn't work. If the C++, the one with the visual loop with the compiler issue worked, you would have seen that if I run it, there will be a quick flash of the application at my taskbar, and it will vanish again. So unless we do this with the main loop, that is what will happen on the applications. And so everything now that we have to do with the app stays in between this. But this tkinter import, we'll be using it a lot in our code. And so usually you see an import alias that says import tkinter as tk, so that anytime we need to call tkinter, we can just use tk. And then when we run it, it will also work again. That is great. It always comes to this place. So you can see it at the top left here, very small. Okay, so what can we do? What can we do? So it looks like for now there's nothing on our application, but we can put things on. So as I told you, what we usually interact with, like the buttons and this space that I'm even typing in, we can term them all as widgets. And so let's explore some few widgets that we have in tkinter. Okay, so if I want to place a button, let's say I want to add a button to this my app, I can say button and set that one equal to tk dot button. And then first I tell it where am I adding the button to, because we can have frames also in our application. So maybe I want to add a button to a particular frame. So here I tell it where I'm adding the button to, but for now I am just adding it to the app instance itself. And then I can also say, okay, let the text on the button be click. I'll choose click me. And then the other things that we can also pass. In fact, you can pass the background or BG for short. So the BG, if I say let the BG be red and FG be white, I don't like the red. Let me choose blue. And then now I run it. It always comes here, so I have to bring it back. It's that we do not see our button here. That is because we have only created this. We have not told it what to do. So we have to now bind this particular widget we have created to the application or to the parent where it is being created to. So this button is being created in the app directly. And so we have to bind it to the app. So it's parent. So we can say button dot. There are many ways to do that, but I'll choose the pack for now. Which, just think of it like you are packing things into, like you have maybe a cardboard somewhere. You are just packing something somewhere. So now this is our app here with our blue button that says click me. So see that I am able to click it here. Okay, so that is great. That is one widget in tkinter. Let's see the others that we can also explore. There is a tk.entry, which is for taking entry. So if you want to, for this on the BG, value is okay. Like it just gives us a place that we can type text. So if I bring it here, and you see that now I can type in hello, and then you see the text that I'm typing in. So that is the purpose of the entry. Maybe if you want this entry to fail, we can inside this pack and we can just say fail. I don't think it should be here. Let me see. Fail. Okay. There's a way we can fill it in. Maybe it's not one of these dots. Okay. Is it a place? Now let me see. Fill. Okay. Okay. The place to work is we also place it inside for us. But I wanted us to see how we can underway. So you remember I told you that usually we also have a frame. Okay, but let's go through the widget before. So there's the button. We've looked at the entry. There's also what we call the label, which here is that it's just a text. So if you want to put any text on your app, you call it the label. And here we can say that the text equal to this is my label. Okay. And oh, sorry, I forgot to bring it here. So this is our label. It's not a button, it's not a text field, but because the background is still there, it's applying to. Maybe we can just take the FG to be blue. Okay. So that's one too. We can run it here now. And this is our label. Great. So there is also the frame. And so we can now say frame, or usually if this is the one of the frames, I usually choose to call it main frame, which is called tk.frame, and we pass that one inside app. And I want to give it a border of 3 so that it will push it up, or maybe I should take it off and then build it one at a time so that you know. So I can say BG, which is a sort for background, let that one be. There are some colors. If you type it like powder blue, like this is accepted, and then if we frame, not in frame, and then when I run it, I think I have an error. Oh no, sorry. I always forget that I have to bring it from this side. We kind of like don't see the BG, or that should be background info. I think so. Okay, it still didn't show. That is because we have not really given it a width and a height. Let me see. There's a particular command we pass, but I don't know why this is behaving this way today. And let's say we want to put a button in the main frame. So button, and then we can go ahead and say tk.button, tk.button like we did before. And this time around, we not pass it inside app, we pass it inside main frame. And then let the background be blue, and then all small, lowercase, and then let the foreground be white, and I'll say the text is click me again. Okay. So when I run it now, we have an exit code of 1. Okay. I think the autocomplete brought something up that we have not yet got into. But in any case, we would have not seen our button because we have not packed it. So button dot pack. Okay. So this is so annoying. I have to bring it from this side every time. Okay. That is it. We also have our button there inside the frame. Now this button was inside the frame and not the app instance itself. So this one becomes our main frame that we interact with. Okay. And so I said that we will go ahead and then build some simple examples so we can see how the whole thing comes into play if we really want to build an application. Because I'm just introducing you to the widget. What if you want to add functionalities to it? So we'll go ahead and then build a simple one that when we has a button, when we click, it will go ahead and then display or print hello world onto the terminal or something like that. So all these things will go away and then we will now create that one. Okay, so if we do app dots, we'll be able to, where is it? App dot title, we're able to give a title. You see, now if we comment this one out and run again, unknowingly it has come to this place also. You only see TK there written there. That's the default title they try to give us. And so we can now pass in our app, maybe I say our hello world GUI app. And then now you see that the title has changed. So that is how we can change the title. We can also do things like the size. So app dot geometry. I usually use that geometry. And then in here, we can pass in the geometry. So we can, like a string, we can say that the first one is the width. So we can say 400 pixels by, so the lowercase x, maybe by 350 pixels. That is in how so the width here is the screen size of the application from left to right. And the height here, which is the 350, is the screen size of the application from top to bottom. And then after that, we can now decide the position of the app. But let me run it first, and then I'll come to the position of the app. Initially, I've not resized this thing, but initially you saw that it was usually small. I had to resize it here manually before it will come. And now this, it already opens up as big, so I can even go ahead and make it 600 by 450 and then run. And this time around, it comes in even bigger. So maybe I'll leave it at this. And then the position to, let's say if I wanted to start at, that one will not be really good to demonstrate, especially that this is always appearing on the second screen. But if we want to add where it should show, usually this screen defines position by what we call pixels. So if your resolution, as we call it, that is the number of pixels by height and width, width and height, is say 1920 by 1080 pixels. That means that from left to right, you have 1920 pixels that are laid across. And then from top to bottom, you have 1080 pixels from top to down. So it's just a grid of that with plenty pixels in between. That is what it's used to display things. Usually, if I zoom in very much, you should see them, but now you do not see them. But if I have it something like an image, you would have seen them. So those are what we call pixels. So that's what the screen uses to define itself. And then I can pass in here like start at, for the X, in the terms of X, start at 400 pixels. And then in terms of Y, start at maybe 150. If I now run it, my app will start somewhere in the middle. Now I'm not using my mouse to bring it. I use the shortcut to bring it. So you see that now it's starting at, so what this app is trying to tell us is that, from this place to this place is, what did we say? I think we said 400 pixels. So 400 pixels. And then from this side up to this side is 150. That is what it's trying to say. So you can choose to use that one to play around where your application should start at first, instead of starting at the top somewhere there, maybe close to 0, 0. But okay, I think I'll leave it here also like that. So now that this one is also done, we can go ahead and then create our app, or let's not the start. This is the start the event loop. And then there are other things that we can explore, but I can't explore all of them in this video. You can just say app dot as always, and you get all the things here that you can call. There's one called resizable that sets your resizable property to true and false, so that can the user resize it or not, and that is all. So app. So what we will do first is to say create our mainframe to mainframe. That is equal to tk.frame. And we pass that one inside app. And then mainframe dot path. Okay. And then we need a button. Okay, this suggestion, maybe I think that is also good. So we can say tk.label uppercase L. And then this one is inside mainframe. And then I can say the text is not hello world, but click the text for click the button below for a surprise or something like that. Click the button below for a surprise. And as always, we have to always pack our stuff. So label dot pack. Sorry. Okay. And then now comes the button. So button, and then that should be equal to tk dot button, and this one too should be inside mainframe. And then the text of this one should be click me. And yes, we will let that one be for now. And then button dot pack. Okay, so when I run this now, as usual, to open here, let me bring it back. You see here that we have our text and say the button here that says click me, and you can click it, but nothing does happen. Not even at our console. We don't see anything here. There's nothing here. So for now, let's just say that I will create a simple function up here. I usually do that outside here. So I can say functions, and then here I will say define greet, and I'll say print hello world. And so if I want to bind this function to functions, okay. If I want to bind this function to the button click, this is what I'll do. I will come here and say command equal to, And then now I type in the name of the function I want to call. So I type in greet. But notice, I don't have to add the parentheses like I'm calling the function. Think of it like I'm binding it to it. So you don't have to add the parentheses. In fact, I think if I should hover over this, that would be what Python will be trying to tell us, or something like that. Okay. I believe it's in that language, but not in a way that we can easily interpret. So now that I took it off, you see that that error is gone. So that was what it was trying to tell us, but not in a way that is easily interpretable. And so I'll go ahead and then draw up this terminal here. My app has also opened, so I'll bring it in. Oh, sorry about that. And then when I click this button here, you see hello world is being displayed at my terminal. So we'll be able to bind the button click to a particular functionality in our code. Okay, so that is it. How we bind also stuff to the button like that. So you use the command, you call the function, but you don't bring the parentheses. Okay. Okay, so what we'll do next is to build like a simple calculator. So what this calculator will do is that it will have two entries, and then we'll make it a single entry, and then when we type our mathematical expression inside it, what we'll expect to do is that we will call the eval function. You saw that function some time ago, the eval function, and that what that one will do is that it will evaluate our mathematical expressions for us, and then it will give us the result. Okay. So let me come back. Maybe I can bring this one way down. Maybe delete everything here, not everything, up to this place. We may need the mainframe, but not for now. Let me delete the function also. Start the event loop. Okay. So our fantastic calculator. Okay, so this app's geometry is like this. I think it is too much. Maybe I'll choose 300 and 250. Okay. And then I can say main frame, that should be equal to tk.frame, that will be inside app. And then I will say main frame, not that one, main frame dot pack, and I want to fill equal to, sorry, fill equal to both. That means I want it to fill both X and Y. You see it well if I add a background here. So if I say BG equal to, say, powder blue, okay, so that's our fantastic calculator. I don't know whether you are really able to see. There's a thin blue line here. I don't know whether you're able to see it, but I think this is as far as I can zoom. So that's the powder blue color. As to why it is not filling when we told it to fill. Is it a expand? Let's set that one to true and see. Okay, so it needed the expand to fill those ones. So we see that now we have a soft blue color called powder blue as the background for our application. Okay. And in here, we can also now add our frame, our label. So the label or the expression label, we can say, no, that should be an entry. So now maybe a label first and an entry to tell the user what to do. So label, that should be equal to tk dot dot label the text to be equal to type your expression below. And then, we have to pack it. So label dot pack, and then is a suggestion that we take the expression also, which I'll go ahead and do. So expression, that should be equal to, this is not the expression, so the expression entry. The expression is what is inside the entry, not the entry itself. So tk dot entry, and that is also going inside the main frame. And then we can say expression entry dot pack. Okay, so let's see what we have gotten so far. Okay, so this is a bit weird. Our label that comes first in the code is actually rather displayed at the bottom, and our entry is rather here. So let's see how we fix that one. We can pass in a side which equal to top, that it will push this one to the top, and then let's say fill. We want it to fill the whole space, so we can fill x is equal to x, and then this one will follow. So let's just pack declare the side for that one and see. Once again, it's still the same. I don't really know why this is doing this. Okay, I think you spotted it right there. I didn't add a parent to this, so it's assumed that the parent is the app itself. So don't always forget that. I'm not debugging, I'm running. Don't always forget to add that one in. So now that I gave it a parent, I see that it is over there. Okay, so type your expression below. This one is not really expanding. Okay, the expansion to, maybe our powder blue background is not really helping, because the widgets, their background is already overshadowing it. But I believe you get what I was trying to imply by that side. So I can say here that another side is top, and then this one I want you to fill the whole of x. That it will run full from left to right. Okay, so you see that it's running full from left to right. Okay, but the way it is touching the ends of our application, I don't really like it. So what we can do is to add a padding, which is some sort. If you are familiar with design, or you're coming from a web development background, that should be very familiar with you. The term padding. So if I have, let me try and explain it here. So if I have, in our case, two widgets. So I have the main application here. That is this box, and then I want to put in a widget. In this case, our case, it's a button here. The padding is, if I give what we call a padding to the main application, which is the green box, what will happen is that it will allow this blue button some breathing space. So just assume for now that this blue is actually really touching application. So let me try and then fill up all these spaces here. I guess okay, that will just be wasting time. So let me try and draw it such that it will really touch the ends. Okay, so this is how our entry widget is now behaving, because there's no padding. If you give a padding to the main application, what we can do, what will happen is that, let's say if you give a padding of maybe 10 pixels, it will push the widget inside by the 10 pixels. So the widget will now no longer be touching the ends of the application. It will have some space at this side, and if you even choose at the Y sides also, so both at the X and the Y sides, it will have some sort of breathing space, so that it will feel very, it will not feel very packed in there. So because we want everything to have some breathing space, now we'll add the padding to our mainframe. So we come here, pad X, that should be, let's say, 10, and then let's run it now and see. So now when I bring up application instance, you see that because we give some breathing space to the mainframe, it has brought the, it's no longer touching the ends like that. Okay. So if if you want to also want to see the frame, I can here say BD, which is the border. I think by default is 0, but if I set it to 5, and then I think this one will still not work until I set the relief value. Let's check it out. Yes, it didn't work because we don't see the border. So what you have to do now is to set the relief, which is relief. And there are a lot of them, but I mostly groove. So groove. Okay. So it's trying to say that expected something. Okay. It's lowercase. So now that I have it there, see that our app looks a bit different now. We see a border around it here. So that's the groove border with a border raise of 3 or something like that. If you like something like this, fine, but I don't think I'll do that. I just wanted to show you that our mainframe is there. So now that we have done with the entry, I think there are other things that we can pass in the something like a font. So you see that now if I stop this one now, our entry looks very small. Looks very, very small. Maybe you want it larger than this. That is where you pass in the font parameter to it. Or it's our entry here. Font. And in a tuple, you type the name of the font you want there. So if I choose this Helvetica is suggesting fine. But if you also want to go with any of the fonts, so I will select the Helvetica. You can type in your Times New Roman here. That will also work. So if you want the Times New Roman to work, or any font you have installed on your system, that will work. And the next one, you can pass in the font size. So if I say maybe 22 here, and then the next one, if you want the font to be bold, you can actually pass in bold here. And then that is it. So now if I run my application, I should see that my entry is bigger than before. So now I zoom in here, and then whatever I type in here is also bold. Okay. But I don't think I want the bold for now, so I will go ahead and get rid of that. I just wanted to show you that. If you want to make it that way, that is also possible. So I'll run it again. And then this is it. So now it should not be bold. Yes, it's just lightweight like that. So I think I should go back to the Helvetica. I think that is the default font or something like that. So now that we have our entry, how do we get the expression from the entry? So now we need a button also. So a button, which is tk.button, we put it inside mainframe. The text should be equal to calculate. And then we have not creating the command yet, so we cannot bind it yet. So button dot back, and then that should do. So maybe this one too, let's pass font. We can copy from this side then paste it so that it will also be large. Now when you run it, you see a very big button here that says calculate. Okay. No questions. So let's quickly create our the label. There will be a label that displays our text. So that will be maybe answer label, and that should also be a label or tk.label. So tk.label, and that should be inside mainframe. Yes. And for now, we can say the text. The answer is, and then for now that is what it should be, because when we get the actual answer, we will come and replace it. And now let me paste the font again, and then we have to pack our answer label. So answer label dot pack. Okay. Now let's see what we have. So calculate, and then the answer is great. So what we can do now is to write our function this side. So I usually like to keep my functions at those places. So I will say functions, and then define calculate, and not take anything for now. But what I'll do is that I'll say expression equal to what's the name? Expression entry dot get. That'll get us what is in there, and then we can say answer is eval. You know this built-in method from the time we did built-ins. That you know that it will return that evaluated expression for us. And then now that we have it this way, what we can do is that we can say answer label dot, and then set text, set text. Sorry, I think we can just access the text here like a dictionary here. The set text is other framework. So dictionary here, and then we set that equal to the string of answer, like it is suggesting here. Okay, so now that's, I just hope this is not confusing. It should not be confusing at all. So we can come to our button here, and then at the end, add the command of calculate. Remember, you don't have to call it. Okay. So if I run now, bring up our guy, and then let's see if it will work. So we can say 2 plus 2 plus 1, calculate, and then we get 5. Plus 5, 10. Plus 40, sorry about that. Okay, here we are, 50. So that is it. You see, it is quite very simple, and it's updating itself anytime if we actually add -2, it will update it for us also. So that is it. Congratulations, you have created your first application, or maybe a software with entries and clickables that is able to also display text. But remember that the answer is not really showing. So where is it? So we can say, instead of string answer, we can say now an f string of the answer is, and then backslash, because I want it to come to the next line, and I can say answer. Okay. So I'm zooming again. Maybe 6 by 4 divided by 3 minus 125 plus 2 v exponent 4. Let's see if it will be able to calculate. And it was able to calculate it for us. Like the answer is that, unless we really try to confirm, but we should trust that the eval is good at that and it can really give us a good answer. So if I take away the exponents, see what that one is. So this side, and this is it. Okay, so that is it. You see, we have created this application, a simple calculator. And if you want to really also expand this and make it like a real calculator with numbers that can be clicked, I think that should be easy for you to do. Let me see. So if you create buttons for 1 to 9, and then you add the rest there, maybe you can divide them into frames. So the main application window will be like this, and then you can use the frames. Sorry, and use a frame here, another frame here, maybe another frame here, and then you pack your buttons in between those frames. So it will be the 1 button here, the 2, 3, 4. For the parking, I've only showed you the left, that the top that parks the top, but if you are building stuff like this that will be parking, can park them from left to right. So park should be left, then to be parking to the left for you like this. So you can have things like this, and then once they are up to the standard calculator buttons or anything that you have in mind, you can modify this expression so that when a particular one is clicked, you pass in, or you rather insert 1. That one will not be updating the label answer, but updating the entry. So you update the entry with whatever is inside plus what has been clicked on. But the second example that we want to look at, for this one we are done, but the second example, I think our time, but I think I should still be able to do that so that you just get the understanding. If there are any questions with this calculator, I can answer it. Other than that, I move on to the next one. Okay, so that means we are good to go. I will not do it in this file. I'll create a new file called, say, editor. And in here, I'll say from, import tkinter as tk. You already know the drill, so I can say, usually they use root, but I like to use app equal to tk dot tk. And then we have to start our events main loop. So app dot main loop. Okay, let me close this side panel for more space. So here I can say app dot title, that will be equal to my tool editor, and then app dot geometry, app dot geometry. That should be 500 by 500. Let me accept this default, and then let it start at, I think it was at 400 plus 150. Okay, and then I will create the entry, or what do you call it, the text entry, like a place where that looks like where I'm typing the code, where we can type text. So I can say that the editor equal to tk dot, or maybe let me put it inside the main frame, then another frame for the button. So main frame equals tk dot frame, and I don't have to really pass in the master here to know it. And then I will say main frame dot pack. Okay. And then fill both, and then expand also to be true. You know what the expand will do? You know that it will make it fill both X and Y. And then now I can create the editor, which I'll say the editor, or the place where we can type the text. That should be tk.text. That goes inside mainframe. And then I can say editor.pack. And then fill, because no, it should fill both, not only X, fill both, and expand is true. Forgive me for accepting the auto completions, because these things I've typed them in the previous example, so I don't think it should be really a problem. You may want to use comments to tell what your code is doing, because depending on what you want to create, the number of lines of code will be many. So this is our main frame. Okay. So if I bring this one here, it looks like the ordinary one other one we have been seeing, but now if I zoom in on it, you see a blinking cursor, which is an indication that it's a place we can type text there. So let's see if the text will work. So hello, and you can actually see that I'm typing there, but not really what you would like. So maybe I will come and add some text font style to this one. I think it's still there. So font cell vertical 22. I run. And then now it's something bigger, so I can say hello. Now it's something bigger. Okay. So remember that this thing is really hitting the end, so I can say part X, let that be 10, and part Y, let that one also be 10, so that I have padding in both directions. And now there is some breathing space there for our editor, okay, on both directions. So what we want to do is to create a frame at the button, so that will be buttons frame, and then I can say buttons frame, that should be equal to tk.frame, that will be inside main frame, and then button frames.pack. And let's create our buttons quickly inside our buttons frame. So I can say we need like 3 buttons: the open, the save, and then the clear. So open underscore btn, that should be equal to tk.button inside buttons frame, and here the text should be open, which is to open a file. And we don't have a command yet, but I still want to pass in the font, but maybe this one I'll reduce it to 18. I'll go ahead and say open button.pack. And I'll have to repeat the process for the save. So save underscore btn, that should be equal to tk.button, buttons frame save. And then the font, once again, should be Helvetica 18 also. Okay, and then I can say save btn dot pack, and then not apck pack. Then we have our last button, which is the clear btn, which is tk dot button. Okay, the text is clear, and then the font size also here is 18. And I can go ahead and say clear button dot pack. Now, when I run it, well, we have a problem. Our buttons are not showing. Even if I expand this, the buttons are not showing. Okay, so that has to do with the expansion of the where's our buttons frame. Maybe you can also pass the fill, hoping that it will solve the problem, and then expand it through, and let's see. Still didn't fix it. Okay, so this is where things become. Usually, you have to do some computations now to know. Maybe let me choose the side and see side equal to, and then this one will be top. Let this one to be side top. Where is it? A buttons frame also. Let's make it a side of top and see. It may not solve the error, but let's just see if it will do that. And as I said, it didn't do that. So what we would like to do in such an instance is first to come to where the editor is, where is it? And then remove the expand equal to true. That still didn't solve it. Where is the, let's remove the fill to and see, because we may have to calculate a very specific size or size for the, what do you call it, the editor. And I think another reason is also that the editor is in the main frame and the main frame is failing. And so when it fails, it doesn't really give space for all its elements. I think those are one of the things. And again, we don't have it, even if, but you see that when I maximized it to the full screen, now you see the buttons here like this. So, and even our text is not filling the whole screen from left to right like we intended it to. So that is something that when you are building with tkinter, you really have to do some try and error until you get the correct width and height for your elements to all fit, especially if it's becoming a little complex like this. One thing I also realized is that we didn't add a side to this guys. Side now should be left, so that this one goes left. This one also goes left. What will happen is that the open button will be first placed at the left. This one will follow at the middle, and this one will go to the end. If there's any other one, that will also come in from the left. So side this one to equal to left. Maybe that is what was causing the problem, because it was trying to arrange them by this or that. And now you see that they are all also here like this. So this one's font, I think I didn't change it. Rather 28, it should be 18. Okay, so now let's try and give some width to our editor. Where is it? Let's or let us rather be the height, because I don't think we have a problem with the width. So maybe let's choose 25 for now and see what will happen. So let's divide maybe our 25 by 2, somewhere around 25 by 2 should make, let's make it 12 and see. When I made it 12, you see that the icons are appearing, but there's still some extra space down here inside our application. So that's why I told you that when you are dealing with tkinter, I think there's another packing method called the place, which I've not really looked into, to allow you to build something that is a bit responsive. But if you're using this pack stuff, you may have to play with height and width just to get your app in good style. So if I run this one again, I think the 13 looks better because it makes use of the space that was down there more. And if I should also anticipate 14, now you see there's a huge change between 13 and 14. 14 is now covering up our icon. So that means that the best for this, our size is 13. And so for that, I don't want my app to be resizable. So I will say app.resizable. And this place, I have to pass in argument for left and right. You can put in false like Pacham is suggesting, but I can put in 0, 0 or 2, which means false. So in that case, is that the maximize is not working. The other time I was able to click on it to maximize it to full screen to see the button, but now it is not working. So I cannot resize this application. Why is Python? So let's give it false. The 0, 0 works also. I don't know why it is complaining for the. Okay, so that was it. What are we left to do? I think now we are left to implement the functionalities to save our file, open it, and also clear the entry. So I think the clear is the simplest of all. So let's implement that one. So let me say functions, and then define clear editor. And then I can say editor. Did we call it editor? I think so. Editor dot delete, and then the delete takes two things. The index you should start deleting from, which is now 0, or you may really see what you may see is 1.0, and then here we pass in end, which is 1.0. Why is it saying that? Let me check here and see. Okay. The end is coming from tk, so it should be tk dot end. Okay. So that is it. So that will clear. So we can now bind this to the clear button here and say, for now, if I run it now, and let me copy some text from here, bring this guy, and then paste it. So when I paste the text from here, it's like it works. But if I click clear, nothing happens. I'm hitting it hard, but nothing is happening to the text that is inside. Okay. So we want it that when we click the button, what is inside the text will clear. So that's why we are clearing it from 1.0. That is the cursor position 1.0 to the end. So can I say command equal to clear editor. Don't always forget to delete or not bring the round brackets there. So we have our cool editor here again. Now, if I hit clear, I'm expecting that everything here will go away, and then everything here is gone. So we are now left to implement the save. So let's save it first. We'll define save file or save content or something like that. And then here it's just a regular Python file saving stuff. So we can now say, but we can choose a dialog window to save our files to. So we can say file, the file path, That should be file dialog. File dialog dot ask open file name. Okay, I think we have to import the file dialog from tk. Let me see. So, yep. Let me just say from tkinter, or you can just say tk.file dialog because you have already imported it as. I think they should work. Actually, cannot find reference file dialog in init.py. So we have to import it separately. So they didn't add it to the init file, so we have to import it separately. So from tkinter, we have to import file dialog. So file dialog that asks open file name. What this one will do is that it will bring out a window where, like, if you are using a file, any software, sorry, that lets you open files. Usually, it gives you a window that interfaces with your files on your computer, and then you select things from there. So I'll go ahead and this initial there. What I'll do is that I'll come here because I want everything to be inside this. So Explorer, and then what I'll do is I'll copy the file path to this place where our file is. I did that off screen on the second screen. And so what initial there does is that where should be that particular window that will let us open our files open to when it opens at first. So I'll pass it in here like this. So this is my working directory. And then I can now say, okay, so if file path, because it can be that you open the window and don't select any path. So if file path, as if the user chooses to give a file path, are we actually? It's not ask open file name, ask save as file name, or save as file name. Because you are saving it, you are not opening it. Sorry about that. So if you have a file path, then we can go with the regular stuff. So with open, and then you have to know that you have to pass in the file path, and the mode should be W as maybe file, and then what we can do here is say file dot write. And what do we want to write? We can say editor dot get. Remember, when we wanted to get the expression from the previous app, this one, expression from it to perform the evaluation, we said get entry dot get. And so here too, we can use entry dot get to get the content of the text file. But this one, we may have to pass in some other stuff like the index, where you should start from and where you should end. So like we did the delete, we also have to get from 1.0, not 10, 1.0. Well, the 1.0 means the first cursor position. So now if I put my cursor before the I, line 1, where this cursor is, now it's 1.0. So you can see this is 2. When it skips to the next one, which is 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. So that is the numbers I'm passing in there. Nothing to be confused about. And here too, I can say get it to tk.end. Okay, so if everything works successfully, we should be able to now save our file, but we have to now bind it to our save button here. Where is it? And then we can say command equal to save content. And so I'll go ahead and editor. And before I even bring it from the second screen, just for you to know that there's no other file here called something.txt or something like that. So I'll bring our editor here, paste in the path, let's say, and then I click save. See what happens. A complete window has opened that allows me to interface with my computer. So that is the file dialog, the job of the file dialog. So I can type the name here, save it as file.txt. I want it as a text file, so that'll be file.txt. And then I click save. Looks like nothing has happened, but let me forget about this application now and zoom in towards my day 18 folder. I see that the file has been created. When I double click to open it, that's exactly what I pasted inside. So now we've also learned how we can use TK to save files in case you have something you want to save to a particular file, maybe a log, you want to log something, or you want to actually create this text application, you can save this particular file. Yes. And then let's see how we can now read from this file and insert it in our code. So I think I may go ahead and then get my poem, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Let me get it copied from the internet quickly. I'm coming. Twinkle. Okay, so I'll override what is in here and then paste one of my favorite poems. The other one is Itsy Busy Spider. So our aim now is to read the content from this file.txt and then display it here, which will be very similar to the save. So I think the only things that will change will be the place where we say ask save as file name, which will be ask open file name, and the other one that will be editor dots. Now we want to insert it instead of getting it. So we can now say define open underscore file. Okay, and then, oh, sorry, I did not bring the F. And in this place, we can also say file path. So I'll just go ahead and accept the auto completion because I don't want to be typing all of these things. You already know them. So, and then I paste this into as the initial there where it should open because that's where I'll be taking the file from. I don't want to be navigating all around my PC. So if this not if not file, if file path, then with open, and then here I can say file path. You know, the mode should be R because I'm reading as file. And what I can say here is that data dot insert now. So where do we want to insert it from? We want to insert it at, let me say, the same as the 1.0, also to tk.end. And yes, this should also be as simple as that, very simple functions in themselves. So we can come here and at the open side, command is equal to open file. Okay, so if everything works, we should be able to now also read files from our, okay, it's running, stop and rerun. Read files from our computer into our TK app. So open, and yes, it's worked. We have our file here. Let me double click it, and then it says end. What is happening? Okay, there's a very important step that we have missed. Where is our the end we saw is what you get when we call tk.end. So with this one, we don't pass in start and end index. Is the place where you should start inserting the text and the content that is supposed to put there. So we can say content is file dot read, and this one will get us everything. And then in here we can say content. So at index 1, insert content. Okay, so when you run it now, and then I click on open, select the file, and then now I see that Twinkle Twinkle Little Star has been also displayed here. So that is it also on how we open files also. But let me show you one more trick with the open file. Now let me delete this place up to, okay, or let me use this side. Let me just put some dummy AAA here, and then open file again. You see that it inserted it at 1.0, so the new Twinkle Twinkle Little Star that came in started from 1.0. But when you scroll down, you see our AAAA here. So that is where the inserted one ends. If you want it to be such that what comes in will be inserted at the end and not at the start, and that this one should rather be tk.end. And so that one, that means that if you read a new file, it will be appended to the end, appended, or it will be added to the end of the file and not at the beginning. So yes, that is it also about creating our cool editor with TK. I don't know if there are any questions that I have to address. Other than that, that will be it for our simple text editor as well. And the end of today's session. So let me leave 1 minute like I always do. If there is any, I do. Other than that, we close chapter on today too. Okay, so I believe that is all for today. Thank you as always for your time. And until tomorrow, it is goodbye. Don't forget to keep creating.